Let's talk about this transactional annotation in Spring Data JPA. Transactional annotation will ensure that all the database operations will be succeed together or all are rolled back. If any of the database operations will throw any exception, it will roll back all that database transactions so that it will prevent the data inconsistency. So today we have the components. Let's This is the components in our Spring Boot sample application. So first we will discuss on pom.xml. This is the first entry. I'm using 3.5.11 version. Other than that, I'm using Java 17 version. And these are the dependencies which are required in our sample applications. This is a startup web. This is the JPA. This is a test. This is my connector, my SQL connector, and this is Lombo. So basically the web for the endpoints to treating as a server, and another one is a JPA to enable the data JPA operation with the database, and this is for the test, and this is for that MySQL connector to connecting my with my MySQL server, and this is for the Lombo, nothing but to create the entities. And this is my application.yaml file. These are my database connection configurations. These are my entities: customer address, inventory, order items, order. And let's create one repository. Let's see, I'm creating that repository for the inventory. First, we will create that negative scenario. Then we will implement that transactional annotation and see how it will work. So my interface is created. Let me extend that JPA repository. Into that I'm adding inventory, that ID long. So let's come to my service class, inventory, inventory repository. Here I need to create one method. Return type will be void. Save inventory. When, when, um, so let's say the customer has placed the order and I just want to update that inventory quantity. And in sudden the payment gateway will fail. So I don't want to add additional code to re-roll back this inventory and restore the inventory. Let's see. Suppose I am using passing the ID with integer quantity. Into that, what I will do here is I just want the inventory ID, repository, find, find by ID. ID I will pass it here. Home, uh, optional, and optional. Okay. So in if I will check that if the optional is present, optional is present, then what it will do, it will provide me the inventory object. Dot get. So what I will do here is I will try to update the inventory. Set quantity and dot get quantity minus quantity. I am just minusing that current quantity, and let's see, let's save that. I think that is fine. Let's save that object, save that event. For now everything is fine. Let me start the server. Before that, I am just creating one endpoint. Public string, say inventory. Customer service dot save inventories. Let me check that any ID. Okay, so 492 is there. Okay, 503. I'm minusing the two quantity and return success. This is just my sample endpoint. Post my I'm using value to be inline. So this is my microservice endpoint update inventory. What it will do, it will call my save inventory method, passing this 503 as ID and 2 as a quantity. This is my saving. Okay, just starting my server. Also the 4. That's not allowed. I need to use that post. Okay, I got success. If you see here, my update query is fired, and let's see the current quantity. It is 492. Now it will become 490. Okay, so this is that positive scenario. Suppose okay, suppose there is condition where the payment is failed, customer payment is failed. So I don't want to add additional code to roll back this table. More than throwing this payment failed. Purchased. I am just restarting my server. Current quantity is 490, but in between I am getting payment failed. So the query is fired, but 488. But that should not be. That quantity should be rolled back and restore it to the table. But here, here we don't. Here we need to add the additional code to roll back that quantity. To prevent that, we need to use that transactional annotation. Transactional annotation is coming from that Spring Boot framework, Spring framework. We don't need to use another one. This is the Spring Standard transactions. So let's see how it will become. Where it is coming, payment failed. Let's see. It it is automatic rollback or not. 488 is current quantity. So if you see, it is just rolled back the quantity automatically. We don't need to add any additional code to roll back in the table. So this is that way how we will handle that exceptions and how we will handle that rollback from the table. So if we want to add the try catch, let's say there is one scenario. So let's say if I will use that try catch, let's see how Spring take this exception. I'm just using that try catch. Rest of the code is same. We got the success. The query is fired. Let's see what is the quantity. Current quantity is for 488 and now it is 486. It didn't perform the rollback. What happens is if we are using the try catch explicitly, so it will consider as a normal execution flow, but not that exception flow. So when we are using the try catch, we don't the transactional will not perform the rollback. So is to use the transactional, this is mandatory. We don't want to use try catch. We don't need to handle that exception by own. So there is, if we want like clean flow, there is one class we can use. The class name is transactional. We need to tell that Spring Boot that we need that only rollback functionality from that transaction and our, let's say how it will perform that. Now we tell that Spring 2 we need to only we only perform that rollback. Now let's try that. So we are just getting the normal flow. We don't get any exception to the endpoint. Current quantity is 486. And if you see the 486, the rollback is performed by transaction. This is a way how if we want to use a try catch, we need to tell that Spring Boot that our current transaction status should be that rollback only. So this is how it is being used for that. Other than that, we don't need to use a try catch. We don't need to handle explicitly exception. This is that for today's topic. This is a transactional flow, how it is used, and it is higher portion asked into the interviews. So yeah, thank you for the watching.